Right.
And here we are. I am with Miss Juanita Ingram, Mrs. Universe. Congratulations. And I
Thank you.
told you a little bit about her, but I really definitely want her to tell us about herself. So do tell.
Yes, thank you. I am living in Singapore. I'm an executive producer and creator of the Expats International Ingrams. I'm an attorney, an author, an actress, TV producer, mom, wife, speaker. I do a multitude of different things. Trailing spouse is another title that I hold, and yeah, just living out purpose. Excited to be here.
You are. You really are. When I came across the show, I was like, this is so amazing. Because there's really nothing that I found out there like it. And then, what, nothing at all. And it's such a timely thing, Juanita, because um there's this movement happening. And it's not like Black people haven't taken up root and moved before. A lot of times, most of us migrated somewhere within the United States. And it was kind of like a situation where wealthy people were able to, like the performers, they were able to be like, bye, I'm out, and go to
Yeah.
the international scene. But now it is becoming so much more prevalent that, so I thank
Mhm.
you for doing this show. And I want to start by asking you, what made you want to do it? I mean, with all the, not like you didn't have nothing to do.
Right. Well, and originally it was interesting because it came right at a time when I thought I was just going to sit down. Honestly, I was going to embrace being a housewife, embrace my hashtag soft life, and I had no intention on doing anything. I had clients that were in the reality space, and I saw that there was a niche that wasn't being fulfilled for Black-led cast and Black reality TV in the unscripted space, just from that process of watching their journey. And then I'll be honest with you, we were living in London and we used to do this thing called Soul Food Sundays, where we would go from house to house. It's like a potluck, and all the Black Americans in the area would get together. And one Sunday we were celebrating this family that was getting ready to move back to America. And Frankie Beverly and Maze was playing on the lawn, Beyonce, and there was like 30 kids running around. We were barbecuing. And then I turned around and I looked up, and there was Windsor Castle because that's where we were living at the time. And that was the backdrop. But it could have been anywhere. We could have been anywhere. But when I looked up, that was our environment. I knew, and I thought to myself, God, they never show this on TV. This is, and everyone that I looked out at was also a corporate expat. They were a vice president, an executive director, something on the executive level. And that was my reality. And so that was the first thing. The second thing, there used to be a show out in reality TV about Black sorority life. It was only on for like one season.
Mhm.
And I was in London getting my nails done. This Black British woman, as soon as I put my keychain down, because I'm a member in one, and my insignia was on my keychain, and she said, "Oh, you're a member of that organization. Why are you out here acting that way? You're embarrassing us as Black women.
Wow.
It's humiliating." And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, the impact of these shows and how we are seen on a global scale, how we're handled, sometimes mishandled. So I saw, as a storyteller, you always want to tell the story that hasn't been told. That's very hard to do in scripted or unscripted, in television in general. So I'm a member of the Television Academy. I'm a voting member. I'm a judge for the Children and Family Emmys. And so I knew what it would take to get the show on. I did pitch the show. No one had any idea what I was talking about. They thought it was a travel show. And I'm like, nope, it's a lifestyle show. They didn't understand what expats were. And to your point of us taking up space,
Mhm.
not really accustomed to Black people living abroad,
Mhm.
and certainly not doing it in a way where we weren't struggling.
Exactly.
And then hadn't really seen family friendly content or Black people portrayed in a positive light. I was told by many networks that that is not what Black people want to see. That Black people did not want. They want fighting. They want the drama. They want the strife. And we don't shy away from conflict on our show. I just have never flipped a table or thrown a drink when I have a conflict. Haven't. You know, that's not to say I don't have cousins that will and can and do, but I just think Black people aren't monolithic. And the way we are handled in unscripted television is very uniform, repetitive, and dangerous. It is very stereotyping.
Yes.
And that is a dangerous approach to any group, and they don't do it with other groups. I'm just going to call it out. In fact, I sit on the executive council for the reality peer group for the Television Academy. And our next meeting coming up is the manipulation and producing in reality TV. And I'm the only Black person on the panel out of all of these executives. There's nothing but executives from reality TV networks. I'm the only Black person, the only independent. And I have a lot to say about that because how they handle us and produce us is having a very damaging effect on how we are handled in this world. So that's where it's a long-winded answer. The show, it's a lot to bring the show to life. I had to save my salary my last year of working because I knew that I had to produce it to control the narrative, because I saw how networks take the narrative and pervert it. And that's not to say that we aren't. I think we're making strides. I think, you know, I'm looking to have a spinoff. I'm looking to partner with the right production company and the right network that gets that we as Black people are entitled to some family-friendly content in the unscripted space. Every other group has it. So why not us?
Absolutely. And I think that your show shows, I mean, it's like really y'all are kind of the Huxtables of Black expats.
Yeah.
You know, but let me tell you something. You know, I have a large group here in Panama, and a lot of people are, you know, they always want to make people us out to be either ignorant or struggling. That is like, I mean, you either want Good Times or Housewives of Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? It's like they don't understand or appreciate, and in the same way that they didn't accept the Huxtables, you know, and how they were turned down by so many networks because they were just like, and if you think about all the years, the decades that have gone by, and you are still getting the same narrative, it's really kind of sad. And that's why I really did want to expose to my network what you're doing, because more and more of us are doing it. But then to tell you the other thing that I think your show expresses, there are members on your show, you know, especially the second season where you started bringing in more expats in the area. Some of them are not rich, you know, they're not rich. And my thing is, my tagline is Charlotte Van Horn, Black Expats in Panama, from little old Glassboro, New Jersey, right here on blacksetradio.com. And I do that because I don't want people that don't have money, that didn't grow up in New York City, you know, or come from a big city somewhere, to think that this is something that they cannot do. So you not be able to go and live like Miss Ingram. However, you can probably go and live a better life somewhere else. And I appreciate on that diversity.
Well, thank you. And absolutely. And that's the thing, is that, you know, I wanted to really showcase the paths, the different paths to get there, because not everybody is going to have a company sponsor their move. Although sometimes we don't, because we don't posture ourselves or even know that that's an option. So I really wanted to put that out there, that if you're starting with a company and you want to live abroad, start having those dialogues about your career. It is an opportunity and an option we don't even think about. But I did want to highlight, even in season 1, I mean, Zoe takes me on a tour of her apartment that's very different from the condo that I'm living in, but ultimately is everything that she needs, you know, and she's a teacher and she has this particular background, and this is how she came to be. And then we wanted to explore more areas and more space specifically to show people. And I'll be honest, I made the show about us, for us, because I think it's important that we see ourselves in a particular space and in a particular way, and know what the options are. Like you said, we're no strangers to living abroad. It's nothing new. Everyone from Langston Hughes to Josephine Baker,
Tina Turner.
Tina Turner,
Yes.
people that really found themselves and found the ability to be free and be their full selves in this setting where certain aspects of life that are present in America are taken away, and that burden, that mental exhaustion is not present. But I wanted to show the reality of how do you get there from military families, and what do their homes look like? What do their families look like? What is their journey? How did they make that decision? Well, and because Black is very real.
Yes.
It is a huge movement. It is very real.
Yes.
I remember a couple of years ago when it finally made it to CNN, and it became a whole mainstream known thing. But
Uh-huh.
it is interesting how a lot of networks were very negative. And they did this, you're right, they did the same thing to the Huxtables, that it's not a reality, it's not an honest depiction, it doesn't feel real. And yet constantly fighting and having repetitive narratives, that's not reality either.
Yes.
And the problem with unscripted television sometimes is that it is overly produced, but it's produced to the negative and to the detriment
Yeah.
of African Americans repetitively. And Black people, period. I look at some of the reality TV shows out of Africa and out of South Africa, and they repeat the same formula of entertainment. It reminds me, I tell people all the time, it reminds me, and I'm not sure if you remember, do you remember the movie Django?
Django, yes.
Do you
I
remember
do.
the part in the movie where they do the Mandingo fighting?
Uh-huh.
And everybody's sitting around sipping
Yeah.
sherry and their wine after their dinner, and they're being entertained.
By black
And it's
men killing each
entertaining
other.
and it's funny. And what we're doing in unscripted television, fighting to the death, and it could be the death of character, the death of marriages, the death of friendships, the death of the imagery of Black women. It's to the death of our community. And so, but they find it entertaining and
Yes.
it's fun, and it's not fun, and it's killing us psychologically and in terms of our imagery, both domestically and abroad. And that's not a dig at any particular show. There's something for everybody. There has to be balance. And
Mhm.
that's the problem, is that there is no balance. There's nothing wrong. Um, I love all forms of television.
Mhm.
I think Top Boy and The Wire is just as important as Different
Uh-huh.
World, Blackish,
Yeah.
and The Cosby. And
Yes.
so if we don't have that continuum and that diversity, that is what creates a stereotype,
Mhm.
and it is dangerous. And so I think in all forms of television, you owe it to the audience to show a full depiction of a particular group.
Exactly. And unfortunately, a lot of times that negativity falls when it comes to the reality shows. I mean, it's like it doesn't really fall so much on the black men as it does the
Yeah.
black women. Black women are really, really, really downgraded by the things that people see abroad. And so I do a sisters retreat every year. And it is how I start my year. And I set the intention. I say, if you are a sister who will fix another sister's crown without telling the world that her crown was crooked, I want you at my retreat. And
Yes,
honestly, it works. You know, Disney is really good at purposeful advertising. And honestly, it works
absolutely.
because some people will hear that and they're not interested. But some people will hear
Mhm.
that and they say, that's who I am. And
Mhm.
what I like to show is that when we get together as sisters, I mean, it is not usually like what you see on reality
No.
TV. You know, reality TV, I think that really, people used to say, oh, they're just faking. I said, I don't think they're faking. I don't. I think that
No.
I think that the producers are just very clever at creating organic conflict, based on personality and character and conversation, so I don't think that they're faking, but I just feel that in real life, come on now, if you got a sister
Yeah,
girl that gets on your nerves to that extent, are you really hanging out with her every week anyway?
exactly.
You're not.
Well, that's the manipulated part. That's the And they call it producing, but it actually is manipulation. And here's the thing, all television is produced. It's not as though I have a full crew of people following me around 24 hours a day. We're intentional. We book locations. We're intentional about storylines and what are we trying to convey? What are we trying to do? I'm working on another docuseries now. I have 5 issues that I have to do, acts 1, 2, and 3. How are we going to push these issues along in unscripted television and be very intentional? But it's what you do with the storylines and how you produce it. Is it manipulative or is it produced? Is it manipulative or are you trying to tell a story using real unscripted scenarios? I've been on set and I've seen it. And so I know exactly how it happens. I've been in pre-production meetings. How do you have a pre-production meeting to say these are the people that are going to have conflict this season and they haven't even talked to each other? It gets to that point. I've seen producers whisper in the ear of other cast members, go do this, go say this, go do this act. And it is very intentional because, again, it's the Mandingo fighting and they find it entertaining. And they call themselves producing because, and I had one group tell me, well, the numbers suggest that this is what people want. No, that's all you're giving. So you can't rely on numbers. It's like if you tell me, well, Black people like sweet potatoes, and all you've ever given them to eat is sweet potatoes. Yeah. Well, your data is skewed because you've never offered anything else. Exactly. How do you know what people, but they're afraid to take risks because people are afraid of getting fired. So it starts from the top down. It is a monetary issue. It's because these shows make a lot of money, because that's all that we have. And there's nothing wrong with anything that's out there. Again, I want to emphasize that a lot of the shows that are out there are the blueprint. They're wonderfully produced. It takes a lot of skill. It does not take skill, however, to do something that is repetitive. It does not take creativity to continuously put forth a narrative. If I see one more wig being pulled, one more table being tossed, it's to me, it's cheap producing. Oh my gosh. I mean,
things that you've never seen in real life. If you think about it, I have never, ever in my life seen a sister, and I have been around. Never ever seen a sister throw another drink in another sister's face. Ever.
Well, certainly not be around them 2 weeks later.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the weird part of the sustained aspect of what they find entertaining. And I don't knock it because some people are using these shows to feed their families. It's the way that they make a living. And a lot of the blueprint that's laid for entertainment and how the genre of unscripted television has morphed and evolved. It's a beautiful journey in terms of creativity and producing. But why is it that Chris Lee Knows Best, which is one of my favorite shows, even before he went to jail, I still think that Chris Lee Knows Best is a wonderful show. I want to hang out with grandmother. I want to, I think Todd Chrisley is a Black woman trapped in his body. I think he is hilarious. His whole family is entertaining. It's a show about a white man doing nothing. And it is well done in terms of making the normality of life interesting, funny, well produced. Why is it that we don't have that on the continuum, on the spectrum that you have?
In addition to,
there's nothing wrong with what's out there.
Have what at the
why can't we have
ratchet?
Right.
What they call ratchet. Yes. And then, but I mean, honestly, really looking at people who are focusing on making that expat journey. There are so many things in your series, in your show that we can relate to. And that's what I like. I'm like, wow, you know what I thought was so interesting? First of all, when the the Taiwanese lady said, well, I'm offended. Oh, Lord have mercy. I said, if I see that, I'm offended. Well, every time I see it, I holler. But I think that it was important because it was from the perspective of a local. And you were so respectful. You were like, okay, girl. However, you were very respectful of her opinion. But baby, when you brought out the point, when you said, well, what if it was a Black man shooting a basketball or something like that? or like said, you know, if would you be so offended if it was about you know, sports, or a Black
Yes.
person representing, you know, Taiwan in sports, as opposed to the pageant being a
Yes.
representation of beauty. That was heavy.
It's heavy. It's very heavy. And there and here's the reality. It didn't deserve. I wanted to show how I really am, and that's reality. Is having that conversation and that dialogue. And in her reality, she was very serious. Like my mother was offended, I'm offended. And then also being respectful of the opinions of others. Because while I felt like it is a very nuanced conversation and you don't have an issue having non-Taiwanese people represent you in other sports, especially if they allow you to win, but also understanding that as a local, she has a right to feel that way. I am not Taiwanese and she is. She
Right.
has a right to express how she feels without being attacked, without being belittled. We have a right to agree to disagree or
Yes.
to fully flesh out that conversation. I mean, there are times in the show where I intentionally leave out certain things that aren't that they
Relevant.
aren't favorable to that, or they will paint that person in such a negative light. We don't need more of that. I'm not, I don't manipulate situations, but there are times that if I wanted to paint her in a super negative light, I could have. But to be fair and to be balanced, does she not have a right to feel how she feels and that she is Taiwanese? But then also, do we not have the need to have the deeper dialogue, especially when we start talking about, well, what does it mean to be Taiwanese? And you're not indigenous Taiwanese. We had indigenous Taiwanese tribes on our show. You're not that voice. And then also to have a voice of a person who was Taiwanese that said, oh, I see absolutely nothing wrong with it. The
Exactly.
breadth
It
and the
was
diversity.
well done. It was
Thanks.
diverse. Everybody had their own opinion. Everybody was able to express their opinion,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in the way that it was important to them. And I
Yes.
thought that was a very important topic. I also thought that it was important because I didn't realize, like when you were saying that, you know, when you were in Taiwan and when the elevator doors open and
Mm-hmm.
people jump back, I mean, you know, that was just something I wasn't aware of
Yeah.
as far as
And it's
Taiwan.
it's very common. You saw the black guy. I was like, yeah, that happens all the time. It's just something that happens. And now in Singapore has never happened. So also I wanted to have information for people to understand that you need to evaluate where it is that you move to, quality of life, how are Black people received, how are they being treated. Your experience in Portugal and Panama will be very different from your experience in Taiwanese, Macau, and Hong Kong. It just will be.
Yeah.
So it will be different than your experience in Singapore. So when you're evaluating, as many Black people are, where do I want to retire? Where do I want to move to? Where do I want to make my Black journey? There are many things that you need to consider in terms of your quality of life and the quality of life for your children. That when we lived in London, that never happened. I
Right.
was taken aback in Taiwan because that never happened. But the beauty of doing a real, what I call smart reality, a real reality show, I don't have to make up these stories.
Yeah.
There are certain things I couldn't make up. The when we first moved and opening boxes and getting my neighbor's stuff out of his yard, I can't make it. Like, why did that happen? I don't know. I can't make that up. But I don't think that you have to fabricate. And there's a difference between producing and fabrication, producing and manipulation. And we've sort of gotten away from producing to just outright manipulation as it relates to Black led cast without apology. And so I wanted to really take us out of that
Mm-hmm.
lane for a moment, the way they take Todd Chrisley out of that lane and allow him to just be. And it's a wonderful show. I absolutely love the show.
I'm not familiar with the show. I have to check it out.
Hilarious.
I have to check that out. But
Yeah.
also, I think it is important that, you know, okay. Full disclosure.
Hmm.
I have been off reality TV for years. I mean, it just got to a place one day where I watched some housewives and I was just like, I just can't watch this no more. And I just went for
Yeah.
years. But something right now, it's like there are some things in my life right now that just require so much focus and seriousness and everything. It's just like I found myself drawn again to just
Hmm.
like a silliness of those series. So I'm okay. I'm okay with that, and I think that everything has its place.
Yes.
But I really do appreciate the fact that I can watch something, and even though, I mean, there is no cursing, on your show, your kids are just like, oh my God, where did you get them from? They are such naturals. I mean, they are just naturals. You don't feel like they're acting or anything.
Mm-mm.
You can feel the authenticity in the family love. You can tell that. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, even without the ratchetness and the cussing and the drink throwing and everything like that, is funny. Girl, I just find myself like cracking up, like, that was really funny. I
Hmm.
think your son is hilarious. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
The scene with him and the sheep, and how like he knows, and your kids know all the words. Their
Hmm.
vocabulary is like off the chain, and it's good to see. It is
Mm.
really good to see that we can have something that is wholesome, but it's not jive, it's not corny.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's fresh. It's
Yeah.
fresh.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. I think sometimes we what we find entertaining, there's a it's not really even a thin line. I think authenticity is what helps. Just being your authentic self, and the camera picks up everything
Mhm.
and it sees everything. I think my training as an actress, I was taught you don't have to overact when you're in scripted. You don't have to overdo. The camera picks up everything. It's not theater. You don't have to perform to the back of the room or anything like that. And so in reality TV, we roll the camera. Sometimes we forget the cameras are there. The best part is just when some of that footage I actually was filming for a travel vlog that I do, and it wasn't even for the
Where
show.
in the world
And
is
things just
Juanita?
Yes, where in the world is money? And things just happen. And I do like to make people laugh. Now, I will admit that I wasn't a class clown or anything, but I was a person. Don't sit next to me if you need to be serious. Don't, because I'm probably gonna say something inappropriate or funny or so. I just find the funny aspect in a lot of things. My son and I share a very inappropriate sense of humor. We do. It's just not appropriate sometimes. It's
Him
like
with
we
the
laugh at any and
twerking.
everything,
Oh
and
my
it's
God.
hilarious. My kids are hilarious. I think as most kids are with their parents. That's the thing, is I wanted us to show the normality of life and us just being. I wanted to normalize Black people just being,
Just
and
being.
just being. And most of us are funny. Don't you love to laugh? We all love to laugh in life, but we aren't allowed to just be in these spaces. And I just wanted to um, depict that there's never a dull moment living abroad. Something always is happening,
Yes.
even in every move, every moment. It's always something. I was telling one of the producing bodies that I pitched to, they were like, well, what are your high stakes? And I'm like, high stakes? What are you talking about? We're living abroad. Everything is a high stake. Just going to the grocery store. I can't even read what's on the package. Like,
Exactly.
it's all interesting. And really the overall theme and the relatable aspect of the show is navigating change.
Yes.
That is the commonality that we all experience, whether you're moving abroad, whether you're moving domestically, whether you're starting a new job, whether you're moving to a new city, whether you're trying something new in your life. Navigating change is a common thing that will happen to everyone. I just did a TED talk on navigating change, and it should come out in a couple of weeks. And I'm writing a book called Mind the Gap, and it's the keys to navigating change. Change is all around us. You know, the show is all about how we navigate these new spaces. And that is something that everybody can relate to if you allow it to be relatable, if you allow it to be normal, if you allow it to be authentic and genuine. We're all going through something that's changing us.
Well, Juanita, also, I did, we had a minute getting together, and
Yes.
it worked out for the best because I was able to see the second season.
Awesome.
I can definitely see how, I mean, I enjoyed the first season, but I can definitely see how you've grown, in the second season, and added like more diversity and storylines. But I'm glad that I went back and I watched some of the first season again, just to kind of refresh my memory of where you guys had started. And talk about change and talk about adapting. It was like the first season, you had the issue with your breast, right?
Yes.
That was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my gosh. And then when you were at that party and you was like, okay, this hurts. I said, why didn't she just go? Because I'm just out there like, look, y'all, don't be hugging on me because I got some stuff going on. I was like, Juanita, why you just didn't tell them? Because everybody was loving on you. But the first season was that. And then the second season, you had to overcome the loss of your nana.
Yeah.
And so all
Yeah.
of this while filming, while being a mother, while doing
Mm-hmm.
all of these different things. And I just thought that, to me, that just told me so much about you.
You know, and I just had a dream about her last night that
Wow.
just seemed so real. And I hugged
Wow.
her and she came to the door and I was like, oh, I just miss you. I'm so glad you're here. And she said, oh, I know. And it seemed so real. And I woke up
Wow.
and I cried this morning. You know, grief is a cycle and it
Yeah.
comes and goes. And just when you think you're fine, it ebbs and flows in your life. And that's a reality that everybody goes through. My grandmother raised me. You know, it wasn't like a traditional, perhaps, grandma, or maybe it is more traditional. My grandmother raised me. And it was, but who saw that coming? I certainly would have never wanted that to be, even with the situation with my breast scare in season one. Nobody expects to get a call back. I didn't expect it. Brittany and I, we were planning out different other storylines. We were like, okay, we'll film the packet. We were just gonna let the cameras roll. Because again, if you're talented and if you're gifted in producing, you can make anything be entertaining. That's not an issue. Some of the things that occurred, real life happens. And the show doesn't stop because I got a call back. Moving doesn't stop. When
Yes.
the company's ready for you to move, just because, I mean, I came into Taiwan in a wheelchair. I didn't say my sutures had reopened. It was bad. Um, Life doesn't stop. Your move doesn't stop. Certain things don't stop because, and even with COVID,
I
I
was
lost
going
the
to say,
last
and then there was COVID.
and then there was COVID. Like you can't, who can make this up? Like, but who can predict to the point of when these pre-production meetings are happening and they're saying, oh, this is going to be the conflict and this is going to be the issues. I understand issue spotting. This is going to be something, the subjects that we cover, maybe conversations that need to be had. But true high stakes in reality TV should be something that just happens because life is. I think that's one of the things that I would tell people all the time when I was recruiting for the show. Life abroad is dramatic enough. Life is going to happen, and I would have to coach the cast, especially in Singapore. People notice the difference in the cast in Singapore and Taiwan a little bit. And I would have to tell them, like, look, it's not that kind of, you don't have to do anything. Tiffany and I really didn't hit it off when we first met. And I just told her, I was like, save it for the cameras because we don't shy away from conflict. Reality is living abroad as a Black person, every Black person you meet while living abroad, they're not going to be your cup of tea. You're not going
Baby,
to,
that
you're not
part,
going to like, and
that
that's, and
part was so real, Juanita.
it's real. And Tiffany was like, don't hug me. Don't she's not a hugger initially. And I'm just like, okay, this is a little weird, but okay, girl. It's that was her. And we really, and actually, and to the point that I made earlier, some of the conflict and some of the ways in which the conflict went down between Tiffany and I did not show, because we don't need more of negativity and painting Black women in a super negative light. You can get the
Angry,
gist of the conflict
angry
and
Black
the
women.
problem that we had. You get the point, you get the gist of it, but I was
Yes,
not there to paint her in such a negative light where people would dislike her at the end of the season. That's not the objective. The objective is to show when you're not somebody's cup of tea, and every Black person that you meet abroad is not going to be your
not gonna
bestie.
be. That was so important. And it was like,
Yeah.
I live in Panama, and
Mm-hmm.
I created Black expats in Panama, and I have thousands of members and hundreds of Black expats that live here.
Mm-hmm.
And I create different groups
Yes.
so that, I mean, we all want to be together, and that's cool for some time, but sometimes you just need your tribe.
Yes.
And when I saw you and that tribe, I was thinking to myself, that wouldn't be the tribe I would pick for her, for you.
No, it wasn't my tribe. And
Absolutely
and
not.
and you know, even to this day, after the fact, we don't really hang out that much. It's
Yeah.
just not my tribe. They do things differently. They have a different idea of fun. I am very risk averse. I'm probably very boring to them. I just put on my stories the other day. I finally went to a nightlife kind of event here in Singapore. House music and like it's just not my thing. I don't like techno. Like it's just not my scene. And it's okay. It's okay. Every black people are not monolithic.
It's
Some of us
okay.
like to bungee jump off the sides of buildings. Not my idea of
Oh,
a good
wow.
time. I don't
Oh,
want to do
wow.
that.
But
You
when
know?
you said,
Right.
but then, you know, it was like, you're part of us now. And you were like, whoa, whoa, hold up now.
Whoa.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because I didn't say that. But then you made a good point when you said they probably just figure she needs us. You know what I'm saying? And it's like you would be
Yeah.
so happy to have found people to hang out with.
Yes.
But that is a reality here as well. And you start to see people breaking off. What I like is there's so many of us here. There are
Yes.
so many of us here. But even when you come to Panama, talking about the way you're received, the way you're received in Panama City is a little different than the way you might be received in Boquete, you know, which is
Mm,
about 8 hours, you know, drive from Panama and things like that. So, you know, just kind of knowing those things before you go. And then,
yes.
but having having the people here that you can connect to, I think is like super important. So that was very interesting for me to watch. The other thing that, you know, there were just so many things. There were just so many. As an
I'm
expat,
glad.
I'm trying to get everybody who's an expat or who wants to be an expat, you know, particularly in the places that you live, because now your seasons have covered Taiwan and
Yes.
Singapore. So you got two places that they could cover. But your hair, you know, the things that we look for, like when you went to the hair, when you went to get your hair done, and then the girl
Yeah.
wanted to get into a deep conversation, you was like, okay, girl, all right,
I
that's
just wanted a
coming.
little off the ends. You know, I didn't really come here for and honestly, I did not tell her to talk about that. I was taken aback.
Yeah,
It was because it's entertaining enough that I'm letting a Taiwanese woman cut my hair.
yeah,
The theme or the topic that we thought we were going to address is how difficult it is for Black women in certain Asian countries, in certain settings, to get their hair done. That was it. She launched into this dialogue, and I'm like, oh wow, so we're doing this,
yeah.
and you can't predict something like that. And she's a wonderful person. That was my first time meeting her. I
Wow,
never met her before. She was
wow.
referred to me, and I think the most organic and beautiful conversations take place, especially when we have the ability to show them coming from another group. You know, she said things that only she could say. Maybe we understood and we knew that they were happening, but it's
Right.
different when it comes from her. And that's something that you can't predict. I think we've been very fortunate with the show in its authenticity that it just attracts authentic characters, authentic spirits, authentic energies from
Yes.
people that understand what we're trying to do with the show and what we're not trying to do with the show. And to your point of showing different locations, that's why I'm shopping around the spinoff concept that I have for the show, because I know that there are other places and other areas that I want to showcase in a particular way. I have a formula in my mind. I can't give it away because I know, but I know what I'm doing in
Yeah.
this space, and also how to do it, because Black people don't move abroad to get on television and cut up and act a fool. We'll get deported.
Yeah.
You know, we can't we can't come into a space
Yeah,
acting like that. This is not getting ready to be Real Housewives of Panama. That's not what it's not
exactly.
getting
It's
ready to happen. You
not.
will get deported. You can't come up and you're a guest.
I've had a
You're a
couple
guest
of people
in a
approach
space.
me about reality shows. And interestingly enough, one lady asked, what is the conflict between Black
Mm-hmm.
expats in Panama, and how do you resolve it? And I just love it. I mean, it didn't come to fruition, of obviously, but I just love having to go through that thought process, and figure
Yeah.
out how many people I'm dealing with on a regular basis every day. But what was so funny was that the conflict primarily is with business here. Like,
Yes.
you go to different countries and you are limited and
Yes.
as to what professions you can come in. So if you're an
Yeah.
attorney in the United States, well, that is very cool in the United States, but it's not happening here. You are not
Yes.
going to come to Panama and take an attorney's job. You are just not
No.
going to do it. You have to be a citizen, and to be in those positions. And citizenship is very difficult and a long
Yes.
process here. I mean, residency, people need to understand residency versus citizenship and things like that.
Relationship.
And so
But
people start getting broke and they start looking around like, okay, what am I gonna do to make it? I done sold
yeah.
everything thinking I could live off of this $100,000 for the rest of my life because things are so cheap in Panama. I don't think so.
Right.
And when you're not putting any money in that account, you start
Yes.
nervous. So instead of you looking to build something, you start looking to infringe on something.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And
and but this is the thing. Most production companies and most networks, they won't see that as a legitimate conflict because their formula is conflict amongst people.
Mhm.
But the reality is that the conflict is with the environment and life. Life, I always say on my sets, life presents its own dramas.
Yes.
Why is it that the conflict, why can't that be a sufficient enough conflict? And that is relatable, that is real, that is honest. And that's something that people are like, oh my God, how are they going to navigate through that? What are they going to do? I didn't know that was something that I should consider. I didn't know. And so it goes into the lane of edutainment,
Mhm.
educational and entertaining. And that was a phrase that the Black Panthers coined years ago that they used to do with their programs was edutainment. And
Wow.
that's why we say the show is edutainment because it is educating the audience, but other shows, other groups get to be educated. I mean, International House Hunters is all about educating about every country that they go to, the
Yes.
housing market, the things that they should consider, life, and the conflict. Conflict doesn't always have to be confrontational amongst people. It doesn't have to be Mandingo fight.
Yes.
The reality is that even getting a visa and getting residency somewhere is a conflict. You have people before COVID, it worked for them. You know, you can be here for as a guest for 90 days and go out, visit the country, come back in. That was all cute
Yeah.
until it wasn't cute anymore.
It was.
It's until it did. But that is a major conflict. Why couldn't you use that as a storyline? But if you are creative and talented enough, you can make that interesting, entertaining, educational, and funny, sad, dramatic. I mean, as a lawyer, not being able to practice, finding my purpose, identity, the entire trailing spouse syndrome is dramatic enough. That's not a conflict with anyone. That's a conflict with life.
Yeah.
And that's what people actually deal with. And that's, I love the reality TV space. Yes, it is mindless entertainment. We all need to be able to unplug. I think that's why
Yeah.
people are so drawn to it. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
art form
Yeah.
because it allows people to unplug. It
Mhm.
allows you to travel from your couch and to never have to leave the comfort of home. It allows you to be informed and to see a lifestyle that you otherwise may not know about. I'm working on another docuseries called Beyond Beauty right now. And it's all about pageant world and particularly Mrs. Pageants from the Black
Now you've
lens.
won
From Black,
7, right?
I have, yeah, and I've lost some too. And I
Yeah.
started this docu-series 10 years ago. And I just now felt like, okay, now is the right time for me to finish this. It was actually the first project that I ever started working on, because no one knows about the Mrs. genre. Everybody's familiar with Miss and
Yes.
Teen. Nobody knows about Mrs.
And you
And then,
exposed that. You talked about that on the show.
yeah, and what about the Black woman's journey in pageantry? What
Yes.
about it? We don't really, I mean, we really don't talk about that. So again, it's a story that's never been told, but the conflicts and the high stakes and the conflicts, so to speak, they don't necessarily have to be against another person or involving
Right.
another person. It
Right.
involves life, but that takes creativity. That takes, and I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm just saying it takes talent
No, it does.
to be able to
But
take the
you're
mundane
doing a great job. You're doing a great job.
thing.
Let me also touch on. It seems that it was more of a reality. The pushback was more of a reality in the second season than it was in
Mm,
the first season. So you started getting the negative pushback, like, these Black rich people, out here, why do
mhm.
they have to show off and everything? And I can't remember his name. Oh gosh, he's the guy that does your makeup and coaches you through
Oh,
your.
Scooby.
Yes, I just thought that his take on that was so good. And it's the
Mm,
truth. It's like they don't want to see us in that light. And it
yes,
almost it takes you right back to you can't come to our school. But why do you have an
yes.
HBCU? Why do you always want to separate yourselves from other people? Like, get out of here. We don't want you here. And so, okay,
Yes,
fine. So we go and we build Black Wall Street. And what happens? You burn it
they
down.
burn it down.
You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? And this is exactly, it's like you've been telling us forever to leave.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, go back to Africa. So
And
now,
we're like,
guess
okay,
what? We're like, okay, peace. We're out. And now that is
yeah.
a problem too.
Well, it's a problem, and I spend a lot of time thinking through it. It's a problem in twofold. The attacks were never about my husband. It was always about me.
Wow.
So it's a problem for a Black woman. It's not a problem when Real Housewives of New York, Beverly Hills, Orange County, for white women to have a luxurious life, to have a soft life, to have comfort, to have purpose, to have families, to be entitled to live and live well, free of certain stressors in life. But it's a problem when you see Black women doing it. And it's not as though, and the comments, even in season one, the comments, oh, why do we have to see her shoe collection, or why does she have to be driving a Bentley? I've been a lawyer for 21 years. If I can't go out and buy a shoe or whatever it is that I want, but it's a problem when I do it. But you don't have a problem when the lifestyle, honest lifestyle of other groups are shown. And what was truly hurtful, because I expect certain things, because I understand that for certain people, happy Black people are very triggering. I did not anticipate that it would be that triggering for certain people to see happy Black people living abroad. I didn't. I was like, well, what's wrong with happy Black people? Not everybody wants to see that.
Right.
But what was most hurtful
What's the
was
Black
when it came
people?
from us.
Yes.
Yes, that was the most hurtful part. And I
Yes.
understand that we have had a crab in the barrel struggle since the diaspora. It was the reason why, let's be honest, we were not stolen from Africa. We were sold from Africa, and the people that sold us were us. And
Us.
some of us need to get off the shores of Africa still. And the mentality that we have that we will sell each other out. The
Yes.
most hurtful comments, the most hurtful part was when
Uh-huh.
other Black people
Yes.
attacked. When white people did it and they happy Black people trigger them, okay. I didn't make the show for them. I didn't
Right.
make the show that
Right.
for people who struggle to see us as human or equal. I don't believe in like begging for inclusivity and all of that. That's not who I am. So I understood that the show would bother some people, but it was
Triggered.
interesting that it only bothered them about Black women,
Yeah.
about the Black women on the show.
Wow.
And, but was hurt. The only thing that hurt me was when it came from other Black people. That hurt. I got over it in season two. I could
Yeah.
care less. Interestingly enough, I haven't had any of those. As soon as I stopped caring, the comments stopped coming. And maybe that's the energy that, that people just know that you kind of don't care. Or maybe they don't want to give us another storyline. I don't know.
So but
But
what I also thought was interesting was that, when some of the people who had pending deals with,
yeah,
started to pause because
yeah.
people was talking mess on the internet.
Oh yeah. It affected in many, I didn't even show all the areas of our life that it
Wow.
affected. In some areas I can't talk about because we've settled certain things and NDAs have been signed and things have been taken care of.
Yeah.
And certain things that help sponsor the second season because of some of the things that occurred. I'm a lawyer in real life. Don't play with me.
Exactly, exactly,
Stop playing with me.
exactly.
But uh it was hurtful and it was unfortunate. But when you are breaking barriers and you're doing something that has never
Yes,
been done,
there you go.
and it is something that is positive for us, I had to learn. And honestly, when I said on the show, my grandmother's feedback is what kept me going to even doing a second season. It was the pride that she had in what I was doing, what I've always done, from every book that I've ever written, to every show that I've ever produced, everything. She would be so proud to see me on the screen. And towards the end, as most people do in their 90s, a little bit of Alzheimer's, a little bit of dementia sets in. She was always very clear every time she saw me on the screen.
Wow.
Always very clear when she saw me. Never had a moment of confusion when it was me. And so I had a deeper purpose driving me to continue, because you do get discouraged sometimes, especially when it comes from your own,
Yeah.
that, just don't embrace it, or we have such propensity to tear one another down because we have that systemic issue from, whether it's colonizing mentality, whether it's from the experiences that we've had. It is unfortunate, but you push through and it makes you a stronger person. And I know that my grandmother is proud of
Yeah.
me. And honestly, I don't say this very lightly. I don't care about what anybody else thinks. When I saw her in my dream last night, she was
Wow.
proud and
Yeah.
she hugged me, and I missed her and I needed her. I'm going through different, life comes in ebbs and flows and different things happen. But knowing at the end of the day, that you've made a difference, that you've done what you were called to do. And everybody is not a conference call. Everybody's not on call, and everybody's not going to get it. Everybody's not going to like it. Unfortunately, what we try to escape in leaving America sometimes, in the reality and the racial issues that we deal with, there is no escaping. You will not outrun racism. You just won't die from it abroad. That's enough for me. You won't experience it in the same way, but you can't outrun where we are as a society. And I wish, as Black people, it is a beautiful thing to go abroad and to see other cultures and how they blindly support one another.
Yes.
If I were Latina, if I were Asian, I'd have an Emmy by now.
Wow. Yes.
And that's just the way
Every
I
Latino or Asian would be buying your show. You
oh,
know.
I would have
Yes.
millions and millions of streams. I would have been picked up by a network by now because of the blind support that communities give to one another, and we do not.
And we do not.
And that is unfortunate. It is a learned behavior, but I do believe that it's changing and it's shifting. I know more people like you and I we want to see it all. It's not that we just, oh, I don't, like you said, it's not, you can get turned off by reality TV, but there's something about it that is entertaining. There's nothing wrong with it. But there are more people that want the Huxtables abroad,
Yeah.
and that want to see Blackish abroad. I
Yeah.
tell people that all the time, that if my
Exactly.
my show is, if Blackish and Chrisley Knows Best had a baby and then decided to raise it abroad, that's the show. It's very entertaining, it's very funny, and it's in a setting that you don't get to see us in. But it is something that I have to develop a very thick skin, as most creatives do.
Yeah.
I'm not unique. It's not unique, in terms of that journey. And as a producer and a creative, that's just par for the course.
Well, I'm proud of you. And
Thanks.
I'm telling you, I just love seeing what you're doing. I love, you touching on the issues. Like, I get some pushback too. Is why do you guys want to bring that to Panama? Why does it have to be Black? And I said, well, do you know that there are many Panamanians who identify as Afro-Panamanian? You know,
Yes,
there is a difference. The reason that Black expats in Panama was started was because I didn't see anything for us. And at the end of
yes,
the day, we are looking for different things when we go
mhm,
abroad, you know, starting with the hair, starting with the,
yes,
you would go in these groups and you were like, you know, is there anybody
help,
here to do my hair? And you would either
yes,
get crickets, or God forbid, if you're like, is there anybody here to do black hair? Why does it have to be black hair? You know what I mean?
yes,
Then you get all of that. But then, you know, as being pioneers, and they call me the Harriet Tubman of Panama. I have brought so many
uh-huh,
black people here. And
hmm,
there are some days when I just want to be like, wow, you know,
yeah,
and I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. It ain't the white folk here or anywhere that's giving me the blues. It is our
I believe it.
own people. And
Hmm.
what happens, and you know, like you say, you know, your purpose and knowing that your grandmother is proud of you, you know, it is amazing how God will always send somebody in the midst of foolishness, in that point where you just about to lose it.
Yes,
And
yes,
he will send somebody to encourage your heart. You know, he
yes,
will send a message from somebody will call, you know, and somebody will tell you how you've impacted their lives. And you're like, what? Wow,
yeah,
really? You know, and that's when you know that you got to keep on going. So
yes.
I just want to,
Well, you've been that for me. Honestly, you have absolutely no idea
oh,
how grateful I am and how encouraged I've been just even in your post and sharing the show and sharing it with other people. And, we're getting ready to put season 2 up on Purpose Streaming so that it can be available to people all over the world. Because if you're not in the US or UK, we're on Tubi, we're on Amazon Prime. But people who don't have American accounts can't see it yet.
yeah,
So just having the ability to say, okay, I'm going to continue to put myself out there because when the attacks come, I'm human. We are human. And, it's even though you're bringing Black in Panama, you're human. And when those darts get thrown at you, they prick you
yeah,
and you feel them because I'm not an X-Man. It's not going to bounce off of me. I'm
exactly.
not a superhero.
Right.
But just creating this space and your encouragement and then seeing the feedback of other people, it
Yeah,
does keep you going because as a creative, it's hard.
yeah,
You balance the right brain, left brain, but the creative aspect, so, the actor, the producer, director, we're sensitive. I think Erica
yes.
Badu said
Like
said it
Erica
said it best.
Badu, that's what you're
Yeah,
saying.
I'm
You said, you know, we sensitive about
I'm an
stuff.
artist and I'm
Yes,
sensitive about my stuff. It's just
yes,
it's one of those things where you can't be too sensitive because it's the world that we live in and that's the industry that you're in. But at the same time, you do get heartbroken sometimes when you're like, but I'm just asking for my own people to
yeah,
be positive and to be supportive
yeah.
about something that is benefiting them.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Exactly.
would have more Black Wall Streets to this day
Mm,
if we did.
come on now. You said that. You said that. And so that's the other thing. So, okay, so now I got the series on Amazon. So I got the
Mhm.
first season and I purchased the second season. I got no problem with that whatsoever. I think we should be happy to do that.
Yes.
So now it's on Tubi. So how do they get it on Tubi? Like if they get it on Tubi, is it just a matter of them being a subscriber to Tubi, or do they pay
Mhm.
inside the Tubi network?
Tubi has more advertisers, so you'll see more advertisements. Tubi
Mm-hmm.
actually pays higher than Amazon because they have more advertisers. It's a free streaming platform, so you don't have to pay for it, but you'll see more advertising. But Tubi is not everywhere. So
Okay.
I don't think if you're in like Panama or if you're in other countries, you can get it on Amazon because you have an American account. Obviously, you started your account in the US. You have
Yes.
maybe you still have a US bank account that's attached to you have a US account. In the
Yes.
UK, they can get it on Amazon.
Okay.
Tubi is not in the UK. Tubi is not anywhere but the US.
Okay.
So if you're living outside of the US, Tubi doesn't even really matter.
Well,
It's a beautiful
what I can say is that a VPN can be
yes,
very helpful. You know,
it
so
can.
I think I can get Tubi here. I think I get Tubi
Okay.
here. And I think I got it here even before I got my VPN. So Panama may be a place where they can find you on Tubi,
On Tubi.
or if they can't get Tubi, you know, VPNs definitely help
It
with.
does. Yeah, Amazon has gotten a little smart about it. I've heard from people that even if they have a
Hulu too.
VPN, yeah, that they're a little smart about it. They won't allow you to see certain things. But like for example, in Asia, um, Amazon is very curated, so it doesn't come on here, and then you can't even download the Tubi app here.
Wow.
And when you open it up online, even using a VPN, it just says sorry, it's not available in your area. So it's
Wow. So
smarter
they
than
have
the VPN.
VPN detectors. Yeah.
Yes.
Hulu does.
And certain areas they do.
Uh-huh.
And so for that reason, we launched
Mhm.
purposestreaming.com last year during Juneteenth, or year
Uh-huh.
before last during Juneteenth. And it's purpose streaming, and season one is up. So they can go on there anywhere in the world and
So
see
it's
season one.
purpose with a D?
Purpose,
A purpose.
PUR, yeah, purpose,
Okay.
just no D,
Okay.
purposestreaming.com. And they can see, and then I'm getting ready to put season two up there now, that it's made its run. Tubi pays really well. It's a great platform. They do a lot with Black content.
Yes.
I'm very appreciative of that. They're very, even though that people think that any and everything gets up on Tubi, it does not. So they're still very selective. They will reject titles all the time. So I've had other friends who are independents who get rejected from Tubi all the time. Oddly enough, it does seem like everything goes up on Tubi, but it doesn't. But we're there. And so I appreciate all of the support. I appreciate everybody that, finds it entertaining. It is something that's very different.
Well,
And I,
you
I
won a
hope it
few
encourages
awards
people.
for it.
Yeah, lots of awards. We are
Yes.
Yeah, diversity in Cannes, Pan African Film Festival. We just won the Hip Hop Film Festival Award for Best TV Series. So a lot of Telly Awards, Webby Awards. We've been recognized many times for the show, and we were on the ballot for the Emmys. We are an Emmy eligible show.
Wow.
Yep. So we were on the ballot. We didn't get the nomination, but we are an Emmy eligible show, and we were the only independent production, because there are three steps to getting an Emmy. First, you have to be approved to be on the ballot. Not everything gets to even be on the ballot to be voted on. Then you get the vote for the nomination. Then you get the vote for the actual Emmy. And we were approved to be on the ballot. So we are an Emmy eligible show because of quality. And so it's good. It's the first step. We'll
That's,
keep
oh,
trying. We'll
that is
keep going for it.
awesome. So,
Thank you.
okay,
Yeah.
so, oh God, I gotta get ready to go. But so
Yes.
now tell me this. So, okay, you were saying that, you're looking at maybe a spinoff. So
Yes.
is there a third season in the works, or?
Well, we're doing the special installation of Beyond Beauty, which is sort of my chronicling my year, because we left off with me winning Mrs. Universe. So
Yes.
we'll deep dive into that year. Third season, I really want to do the spinoff concept. I'm in talks with certain production companies that will get it, that will allow me to still be in control, because
Yes,
I can't allow the narrative to be perverted. And
exactly.
it's just not going to work. There's a certain way in which you have to approach Black people living abroad. There's a certain level of trust that I think people have with us, and understanding
Mhm.
what I'm going to do as a producer and what I'm not going to do. And
Exactly.
so I would love to do the spinoff. It is very hard to do this show on my own. I don't know if I have it in me to do a third season, and it costs
I
a lot.
can't, I don't know how you do it.
It costs a lot. And so
I
I'm,
bet I mean,
either I
it
would,
costs a lot. I mean, it probably costs a lot financially, but also just physically and
yes.
personally. And I mean, I see that, and I love it. I'm gonna tell you, I really do love it. How you're not always just made up to the nine.
No.
Like with
Hey,
the
I'm just
reality shows, how it's like they just waking up with the skinny noses and stuff like that. you know, peace is the new prosperity.
It is.
And I always say authenticity is the new sexy.
Yes.
And us living in a world of social media and internet foolishness, I think that a lot of us have gotten to be where we really appreciate authenticity. And
Yes.
I do these videos. I mean, as of right now, I mean, regardless of what people think, I do a lot of stuff on my own. My videos are not professional. I do not believe in retakes, baby. I ain't got time. You understand? I just trying to get the message out, and I'm gonna tell you the truth, Ruth. People fool with me because of that.
Mm-hmm.
They like,
Yes.
girl, that's what I love about you. I'm like, good, because that's all I got.
That's all I'm look, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. I just got my kids on the bus. You're lucky I got some lip gloss on. You're getting what you get. This is it. This is my face. This is the reality. And that is reality. I don't know of a mother that walks around made up 24/7. I don't know of anybody who goes through a move. And yes, I'm gonna put my headscarf on and count up these boxes, and I'm tired. Like this is real life. It's just I like being, I like just being, I like just being myself. I like myself. And
Yeah,
so the full spectrum of
it
who
shows.
I am, honest, fresh face, no makeup, this is who I am, because you've seen it. You've
Yeah,
seen it. I clean up well,
it
you know.
shows. But you
Fine.
always look different though. I'm like, this lady, you have so many looks about you. Oh my God, I could just talk to you forever. Because the other thing that came up, and I'm gonna say this and I'm not gonna say anything else, but I rewatched season one. And because the first time that I watched the first season was a lot earlier. It was
Mm-hmm.
earlier, but it had to be at least a year ago, and
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And since then, your perspective is always changing. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things, I think I've probably relocated full time since then. And I remember just having an emotional breakdown, like meltdown, like, oh my gosh, I never considered myself a hoarder.
Yeah.
My house, and my house was big enough where I only had the things out that needed to be out. And I really thought I had become a minimalist. Girl,
Uh-huh.
start digging in them closets. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. I had boxes that I had not unpacked from probably, I'm seriously, I have papers from the 80s, that
Yes.
I'm still going through. We've been this moving boxes from one place to another, but there was that scene, and it's in not Kelsey. What's your baby name? Your daughter's
Kinsley.
name. What?
Kinsley.
Kinsley. You and Kinsley, and
Yes.
you were talking about her shorts. She had some shorts, and you like, look, girl, we
You're a
not.
hoarder. Like,
But
you're not
you
gonna put
thinking,
your 11-year-old prepubescent body in these age 7 shorts. What are we doing? Why do
that's a
you
real
need this?
scene. That's a real scene because it made me think about, for me. I mean, I have grandchildren, okay, so my
Mm-hmm.
my daughter's been gone, but when people are moving and you start thinking about what you need to get rid of, by the time you got kids that are 10 and 11, years
Yeah.
older, so they got their own collection of whatnots and what have yous. So
Yes.
it's a
Yes.
lot of work. It's a
It is.
reality. That scene will make people think maybe I ought to start now.
Yes. You should start early, because I mean, we just moved to a new condo here in Singapore, and it took me like a week and a half to just sort out our lives. And you're sorting out four, because my kids, I think
That
they're kids,
thing.
but they're grown now. You
Yeah.
14 and 15 and 13. Y'all are grown. Y'all
Yeah.
are grown people. You're my height. These are grown folks that I'm sorting out their lives. And my rule of thumb now is, in between moves, if you didn't wear it and you didn't touch it, you don't need it.
Yes.
And we don't like to let go of things. We don't like to purge things. I am a purger. My husband and Kinsley are hoarders. They are. I
Uh-huh.
love them, but they're hoarders. And they just don't know see it in everything. And I'm just like, if you haven't worn this in between moves, my rule now, it has to go. And that's the same. And I hold myself to that.
Yes.
And that's hard, but that's really, especially as you move to different spaces and you go from a 6,000 square foot home to a 2,000 square foot condo, and on a good, that's large. You
We
know, that's on a good day.
we did that.
There's a lot of space in certain countries.
Yeah.
And what you need and what you require becomes very honed in and very specific. And if you haven't touched it in 2 years, you actually don't need it. You don't. And that's I worked with a home organizer. It's the best thing I ever did. And just showing
Wow.
me, yeah, the best thing I ever did when we moved here to Singapore, because it was so overwhelming. And it was in the middle of
Yeah.
lockdowns and restrictions. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I can't invite family over to help, settle in and
Yes.
set up your kitchen and all this. It was just very different.
Yeah.
Each space is different and you have
Yeah.
to configure your life. So yeah, I mean, I think the relocation industry is interesting, and relocating and moving is very interesting, and there's never a dull moment.
Never.
And it's always full of very, very common issues that we all relate to, but that navigation of change is very real.
It is. It is. And you know something? When people are going through it, when I went through my move process, we actually had a double move. We downsized from a 6,000 square foot house to a 1,500 square foot condo, which we leased because I did not want to buy anything else in the States. But then I got this
Mhm.
great deal. So I ended up buying a 2,700 square foot townhouse. And then when we
Mhm.
moved, we took the townhouse and some of it went to Florida, to a Florida place that we got, and then some of it came here to Panama. But it was an ordeal. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. I don't use the moving company or support them anymore, but the moving company that I had was really good because they walked me through it. And it's very
Mhm.
important that you do that because, like, you and your husband, y'all move a lot, and that's,
Mhm.
that, or like people in the military. But for a lot of people, and, unless you're moving for work, you know,
Yeah.
there are some people who, if you ever leave the country, you're going to be like an odd man out. And if you
Mhm.
do, you'll probably do that stuff one time, so
Yes.
like I don't have any experience with this. I need all the guidance and support that I can get. So when you get little tidbits like that from people who have actually experienced it, it is rich. It is rich.
Yes.
And so I have to go, but I just want to again thank you for what you're doing and let you know that the information that you're putting out, I didn't even get to touch on some of the subject matters that come up during the show. You just have to watch it because there are certain things that happen during the show that I may have missed that other people
Mhm.
or expats would be like, Dad, I had that same experience, or Dad, I was wondering how that went. And I also think that a lot of the things that came up, I just thought that you were very, very, your handling of things was very mature, very
Mhm.
open-minded. When you look at your children and how they embrace change and things that they, don't, how they're not afraid. They may have
Yes.
little remorse because, like, dang, I'm gonna miss my friends, but they know
Yeah.
they're blessed. Those kids,
Yes.
your kids know that they're blessed.
Yes.
They
Yacht, yachts and
that's
all. Yes.
they do, and they know that their minds are open.
Yes.
And just a lot of stuff. So tell us why we should watch the show and how we can find you.
Absolutely. Well, you can find us on Amazon Prime, both in the US and the UK. You can find us on Tubi if you can get Tubi. You can find us also on purposestreaming.com. The season one is up. Season two is going up hopefully in the next 2 weeks. We'll have season two up there. So you can find us in those three different locations. And I think everybody should watch the show, whether you're wanting to live abroad or you aren't. Everybody's navigating change. So the show is all about navigating changes in life. And it's done in a very, hopefully, in what people find a very tasteful way, very entertaining, lots of fun. I think the best compliment that I ever got was his grandmother inboxed me and said that she sat her grandchildren down in front of the show. She didn't have to worry about the content, didn't have to worry about what they were seeing, didn't have to, she could walk away. And then when she came back, her grandchildren wanted to travel. They wanted to see more of the world. And I
Wow.
hope that whether it's them or anyone, that you're able to see yourself in a space and it just be normalized of us just being and then being entertained and laughing at the same time. So we
Yeah.
just want to make, just brighten people's day, educate, entertain, and hopefully be a light in the world. And so that's the purpose of the show.
And you also, I mean, it's also getting a glimpse of other countries. It's like
Yes.
it's
Oh,
not
yes.
just the family in the house. Y'all do
No.
different things. And I think that when you look, you be like, what? I just
Yeah.
in Taiwan having beautiful places, like this
Yes.
and everything like that. Or like,
Well,
mhm,
there's a heavy travel component to it, and we were intentional, especially in season 2, because we
yeah,
did get feedback. All feedback wasn't negative. Some feedback was like, "Oh, we want to see you travel more," and I'm like, "Now in season 1 we were in lockdown, right? You
right,
ain't
right.
traveled during the pandemic." But I'm like, "Wait a minute." But in
Yeah,
season 2, we were in Dubai, Vietnam, Cambodia.
yeah,
We're taking people all Thailand, all Bali, all of these different places that you get to see through our lens and just travel, do your sofa travel
yeah.
and couch travel with us. So yes, it's a huge component. I'd say it's entertaining. It's hard for you to brag about yourself. The show is very entertaining. I find it funny.
It
And
is.
I'm not easily because I like to make people laugh, I don't laugh at everything. It is not buffoonery, it's not coonery. I've told people all the time, I've never cooned for a coin and I'm not about to start now. It
Right,
is
right.
genuinely entertaining
It
and
is.
hopefully tastefully done so that it can inspire and educate and entertain all at the same time.
Yes, I agreed. And Cambodia was surprising to me too.
It's
I went
beautiful.
there, so
Yeah.
I have gotten to travel, with
Yes.
you all by watching the show, and I'm like, And also, you point out that taking advantage of your location. Like it's
Yes.
easier to go to those places. I mean, while I'm in Panama, people constantly you go to Costa Rica, you go to Colombia. There's a lot of places that are so much easier and inexpensive for you to get to while you're in those
Yes.
places that you can actually enlarge that too. So listen, thank
Yes.
you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I feel so
Thanks.
honored to have had
Oh,
you on the show. And I am looking forward to continuing to support you for a long time to come. Congratulations on
thank you.
everything.
Thank you so much. Thank you for creating this space. Thank you for all of your support. It means the world to us. And I just appreciate the opportunity to come on and share. And thank you for loving the show and sharing the show. It means a lot. So thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Oh my gosh. She is so amazing. I mean, honestly, I could have talked to her for another hour. I'd have lost track. Lord of mercy. I don't even know how long I've been talking. But I just, want to thank her for taking the time out to be with us. I hope that you have recognized from this show that you have absolutely got to get this show. And you know what? She's so sweet and she's so authentic and she's so accomplished. And I was telling my best friend, I said, you know what? She's just um, sort of like Tabitha Brown. I always say, listen, anybody that don't like Tabitha Brown is just a hater. That's it. How can you not like Tabitha Brown? That's how I feel about Juanita Ingram. How can you not like her? So anyway, please do follow her show, support this sister and what she's doing. She's doing it for us and she's representing us so well. Okay. And she's breaking barriers. It's very easy just to say, you know what, this is too hard. But you know what? She's hanging in there. I'm so proud of her and I'm so happy for her success. I know that we can take her over to the next level so that she can continue to open doors and create that dialogue and, you know, open spaces for other people. So let's definitely support this sister. So anyway, with that said, I'm so over my time. But I just want to play. I think we're gonna close with, how about Luther Vandross, A House Is Not a Home. Luther was one of her favorites from the 80s, and I don't know why A House Is Not a Home just comes to my mind. Let's do that. As always, I want to thank my main man, Daryl Spears, who helps me produce all of my shows. Blacks at Radio, Devin Austin, and Riley Jackson for creating a space for us to thrive and to put our voices out into the world. This is your girl, Charlotte Van Horn, Black Expats in Panama. Listen, I love you. I love you. I loved you. And there is just nothing that you can do about it. Until next time, peace and love, my brothers and sisters. Ciao.